All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, thank you for the introduction. And I want to add my thanks as well to the Society for organizing this and for giving us this opportunity to be here this morning.
Yes, it's great to be here. I haven't been in Malaysia in probably about 2 years almost now, so It's great to be back.
In fact, it's probably my first career day. I've been with CFA Institute for 5 years, so it's my first time being here in person, so very exciting to be joining all of you today. So I'm going to steal a line from Jin Yung, who said that this is really the starting point of you building an exceptional you. So David and I are here today to share a little bit about what CFA Institute offers and what you can possibly bring on board and take on into starting that journey as well. So we're here to touch on a little bit about the CFA program, which probably a lot of you have heard about. We want to share some of the exciting changes that are now in place. We'll touch a bit about the ESG certificate as well. And then we'll close off with our latest addition to the portfolio of products that we have, which is the Investment Foundation Certificate. So let me get into it and start off to introduce CFA Institute. You probably already know that it is a global organization, and in fact, it's the world's largest professional association for the investment management industry. I want to just draw your attention to the mission here that you see on the screen, which is to lead the investment profession globally, upholding the highest standards of ethics and professional excellence. And so that's really central to everything that we do, and I think it really translates into what we put out into the market as well. So for those of you who like numbers, this is what our footprint looks like around the world. I'm not going to drill down into each of them, but broadly we have over 190,000 charter holders. We have over 160 societies around the world, of course, including Malaysia Society. Over 250,000 candidates. What I would say is that primarily and overwhelmingly, they're all here in APAC. And in fact, I think we must be looking at some of you who are candidates as well, yourselves in the audience. And we have over 750 affiliated universities, 16 of which actually are here in Malaysia. The reason to share these numbers, not so much to talk about the numbers itself, but also to demonstrate the reach that CFA Institute has. And this network is something that is unique to us and is one of our most valuable assets, also because we tap on this network to inform and keep a pulse of on the industry. So we reach out to our regulators, to our institutions, to our universities, to candidates, members, really to understand what's the latest developments, and that also then informs the programming that we put out. So let me touch a little bit about the CFA program. It remains the gold standard. I think famously or infamously, it's known for its rigor, and everyone talks about how difficult the exam is. I think that's nothing new to you. But really, we also want to ensure that we keep it relevant and up to date. This year actually is the 60th anniversary of the CFA program. It was launched in 1963. It's come a long way since, but I think no more so than in this year, where we've announced 6 of the most significant changes to the CFA program. So let me go into what the changes are. So here you'll see the 6 changes: the expanded program eligibility, the introduction of practical skills modules, of more focused curriculum, specialized pathways, additional practice questions, as well as digital badging for level 1 and 2. I'll go into a bit more detail in the next few slides. So the first one, eligibility change. This is probably the one that is most relevant to all of you here. You might have known up until November last year, eligibility for the CFA program registration was open to those that were in their last year of their undergraduate studies. What we have now, we've been hearing so much from students, from faculty, is that people really want to start that journey even sooner. And so for that reason, we've now pushed it forward to 23 months. So if you're 23 months from graduation, you qualify and you can start to register for the level 1 exam. So again, that's really a result of that network that we have and the feedback that we've received. And people now can get a head start into really making it clear to employers, future employers, potential employers, that they're serious about a career in the investment field. Also sets you apart from your peers, because of course you're all navigating a very competitive environment. Secondly, the practical skills module. Now, this one is, again, we've heard so much from from the industry that they really want candidates that are job ready. So not just technically competent, but being able to apply themselves. And so now, starting from 2024, there will be a practical skills component for levels 1 and 2, and subsequently for level 3. These are not going to be tested as part of the CFA program exam, but it is a mandatory 10 to 15 hour component that must be completed in order to receive the exam results. So a candidate can register, take the exam, and any time before the exam results are released, they must complete the level 1, the practical skills module. So for level 1, the topics are financial modeling and Python. And then level 2, you'll see also analyst skills and then a more advanced Python skills training. Okay, and then here we have a more focused curriculum as well. So what we've done and what we've heard is that many of the candidates that actually register for the level 1 exam, overwhelmingly they already have, they are very confident and comfortable with the foundational concepts in the previous program. And so in order to also streamline the content and not to be repetitive, most of the foundational concepts have now been moved into a pre-read material. So for those that either have not had that exposure previously or would like to get a refresher, then that pre-read is available. But that also then makes what is tested about 12% less. And it brings back the study hours to 300, which is that 300-hour brand promise that we've previously have put out. And then this one, the specializations at level 3. So this will kick in 2025. But for candidates who register for level 3 at that point, they will have 3 specializations that they can choose. From our research and what we've heard from the industry is that private markets and private wealth is increasingly a growth sector. And so for that reason, we're offering this specialization at level 3. And this is, I would say, you could liken it to a law degree where you have a specialized area of focus. But ultimately, any of the 3 specializations that you choose, whether it's the traditional portfolio, private wealth, or private markets, it all leads to one CFA charter. So that's what you would graduate with or end up with at the end of the day. So that covers the changes for the CFA program. I'll hand it over to David now to take us through the ESG certificate.
Thank you. So the ESG certificate is a little bit different than the than the CFA program. So this is So it's a little bit different than I think the CFA program. It's a kind of a standalone certificate. It's only about 100 hours of study, so a little bit less, but it's much more focused on just ESG. So I think most of you might be familiar with that term. But it's really not a new term. It's been around for quite a long time. So if you think about when this really started becoming something, you can go back to as far as the 1800s with the Quakers, who kind of used religious-based investing as kind of a basis. But really, what we consider to be like ESG investing doesn't really come into existence really until the 1970s. But it doesn't really get prominence until almost like 2015 with the Paris Agreement, and then kind of accelerate significantly from there. So like the vast majority of the rules that we're working with, about I'd say about 80% of all the regulation requirements and financial products that are based on ESG are in the last 5 years. So it's a really new topic, which is why we came out with the certificate about 3 years ago. So we're on technically the 4th version of the certificate now. And the certificate has been very well accepted because there's quite a lot of demand from both the demand and supply side of the market for people with these skills. So we've seen quite a lot of interest in the financial markets, but also the people buying the products are demanding more of financial firms. So they're kind of requiring literacy of these topics. So the overall goal of the certificate is kind of to create a baseline of knowledge. So to create kind of a foundation, but to make sure everyone's speaking the same overall language. Because one of the main challenges of sustainability in general and sustainable finance as kind of a whole is when you say you're doing something sustainable, no one really knows what you mean because everybody has their own definition of a lot of these terms, like transition finance, green finance. They're all defined differently in different markets. So the goal of this certificate is to create an understanding of how they're the same and how they're different, and just create that common language. So you can kind of see that with the breakdown of chapters, where the first 5 chapters kind of cover the basics, and then the back half, the 6, 7, 8, and 9, really get more into the financial aspects about how do you implement this in the work that you're doing. So it's not a replacement for the CFA certificate in any way. It supplements it by giving this kind of additional information. So in terms of who's taking it, when we did design the certificate, it's for a similar audience as the CFA program itself. But in terms of who we've actually seen taking it, it's a much, much broader audience. You know, we have, in addition to what you see on the board, we actually have lawyers taking it, PR firms taking it, marketing firms have actually signed on because they want to understand the language, so when their clients say something, they know what they mean. And we've also worked pretty closely with universities. So some universities have actually, much like with the CFA program, have implemented the kind of curriculum into their programs itself. In terms of how it's set up, so it's similar. It is a self-paced study program. I think I already mentioned it takes somewhere around 100 to 130 hours of study, depending on kind of what your basic level of knowledge is. If you have a bigger background in sustainability, it might take you a bit less. If it's a very new topic to you, it'll be more towards the higher end of that estimate. It's a 2-hour exam with 100 questions, so it's not quite as long as the CFA because it's much more focused on those topics. And it's pretty much available globally. There's only a couple markets where we can't offer the certificate currently, but no matter where you are, you can probably find a testing center or take it through the remote proctoring. So the main goals, we want to see that acceleration of knowledge, just to help people get up to speed with what the market's really demanding right now. All right. And I think, I don't want to eat up too much time, but we've had very good acceptance by firms and universities. So some firms have actually mandated taking this, just so they know that all their employees are using the same language. Others are more just supportive. And I'll pass back to you for the IFC.
Thank you. Okay, and then we just want to round off our sharing today to talk about the newest kid on the block, which is the Investment Foundation Certificate. It's not so new in some ways, is that in that we first launched it back in 2013, and at that point, and since then actually, the curriculum and the delivery of the product of the learning was fairly static. It's not been updated, and so we took it off the market about 2 years ago. We spent all of last year refreshing and overhauling the entire program. So the overall intent and the objective has remained the same as what it was originally intended for, which is really to provide a foundational understanding of the investment world, and so and it still remains the same. And so the idea it's quite different from the CFA program. I would say is on the other end of the spectrum. So for anyone who either works or is in a supporting function within the investment industry, or is looking to get to break into the investment industry and wants to understand, first of all, is this even the right route for me? This could be a good starting point as well. So the topics here, we've just listed out. It's not exhaustive, but you see the big sort of the big courses. So the program is broken down into 6 mini courses, all taken sequentially, which then leads into the Investment Foundation Certificate. So you start off with a overview of the industry. You go into the types of markets and functionings, investment instruments, the inputs, and then the broader picture of how to serving clients, and also with the more topical topical content such as ESG as well as DEI, and of course ethics, which is key to everything that CFA Institute does. So that's what the entire program looks like. And here some of the functions or supporting roles that we see most interest from. So anyone working in HR, for example, legal, IT operations within the investment industry, they want to understand what the business is about. And conversely as well, for universities, we've seen interest in for them to, for students who are not necessarily from the finance faculty, so they could be, let's say, for one of the STEM backgrounds, this could be an interest for them because they get to gauge whether or not investments is the right place for them. This is just a further illustration of what some of the roles could look like that may be relevant for the investment foundation certificate. So we're starting with someone who is early on in their career, a project manager who is basically trying to get a leg up about the industry that they're operating in, to be able to navigate it, to be able to converse with their colleagues, and to be able to then more confidently contribute to the teams that they're supporting. In the middle here, you have someone who is already somewhat newer to the role, but looking to upskill themselves or maybe make a career progression. And then right at the end there, a more seasoned professional. Here we have an HR executive, possibly looking to either make a pivot in their career or also just expanding their qualifications and experience. So just an illustration of what this could look like. But again, I think for students as well, we see a lot of interest from those that don't come from necessarily a finance background. David, you want
to? All right, yeah, and I can just echo that. Like in terms of the work I've done around IFC, we've had some universities who wanted to use it for onboarding master's students into their financial programs, just to make sure everyone had kind of the basic level of knowledge required to go through their master's. And on the complete opposite end, we had a Big Four consulting firm who wanted to use it as a refresher for their executives, just because the market has changed so much since a lot of them took their degrees. So there's a lot of things to refresh on as well. So it kind of fits kind of that learning role, but also a refreshing role as well. So in terms of kind of like the benefits, I think the board kind of says it all for me. I don't need to say too much, but again, it's kind of improving engagement. So the first is saying, like, am I even interested in this topic? Like, I think I am, but I don't know enough about the investment industry to know if it's something for me. So it's going to give you that engagement of understanding the market, so you know which part you're most interested in. So when you do go into the CFA, you know kind of which pathway I think you want to take. You have that, again, that development of a foundational learning. So without that foundation, you can't really learn the more important skills. So having a strong foundation is important to further development of what you're trying to do. Just again, that greater understanding, giving you more kind of confidence, I think, in what you're doing going forward. So if you don't feel strong in finance, it's useful to take. Like even myself, I went through the economics pathway. So for me, I didn't do much finance. So it was useful for me just in terms of getting a refresher on the different parts of the market and also getting kind of finance's view on certain topics versus like economics view on certain topics. So again, kind of like what are I think this one's for more the employers, but looking at that. So in terms of what the employers know, if you went through IFC, they have a good understanding of the topics that you've gone through. And they know that if they see that on like your resume, they know you've gone through it. They know, for one, you can go through a program and take the course and go through the required hours and show that kind of commitment. But they also have that understanding of, okay, I know you know these things. And they have a better understanding of where you are as an individual as well. All right, and again, I think Reseena went over it a little bit as well, but it's again just that modular structure. So you see that with the ESG certificate, it's broken down into pieces so you can go through each one at a time. The main difference is this one, you do have to go through each of the modules one by one, and I believe there's a test after each module. So you'll make sure that you understand it before going to the next one. So you're just building as you go. It's a bit shorter in terms of its time. You can probably get through it in that, like probably an average of around 70 hours. But it's, I think we say 60 to 90 just based on experience. If you have zero background in finance, it's going to take you a bit longer than if you've had some courses or if you've had some kind of experience in the market. And again, it's an online course, so we've had people who have taken it kind of like as they go to work. So one of the guys I know who passed it would study it on the train every day. So it gives you kind of that flexibility versus the old version of the program, which was just a book. So there's also some games that have been built into it in terms of like flashcards and other things throughout the system. So it's on that Canvas-style ecosystem versus just like a PDF or a book like it previously was.
Okay, so this is just a closing slide here. So we wanted to keep some time as well for questions. So if there are any questions, feel free to raise them. We'll also invite you to access some free resources for students, so feel free to take a photo as well. Cindy, do we want to open up for some questions? Okay, yes.
This is the time where you whip out your handphones, scan the QR code up on the giant screen, and please feel free to blast it away, using your phones. Any questions? Don't be shy.
First one's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm going to turn that over to the society. Yeah. What's the number of hours? It's based on the work hours.
Yeah, or work experience.
Work experience, yeah. Yeah.
But not level 1, correct?
No, not level 1, but like to finally get the charter.
We can specify that. You can enroll, but you can't get the level 3 without it.
Okay, so I see question 1, I think the one that's of most interest, what's the best place to study the CFA? So for this one, I want to turn it over to the society. Do you want to take this?
All right, so now the CFA program is actually designed as a self-study course. You can study on your own, right? I mean, if you choose to. But yes, there are actually institutes that provides what we call prep programs. You can visit them next door later on, right? So they're here, get to know them, get to know what are their programs. Yes, they are very helpful in actually tackling this very, very tough exam. Thank you.
So I think Reseena can correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of enrolling for the CFA without a degree, I believe for like level 1 and level 2, there is no degree requirement. But if you do want to finish level 3 and get the certificate, there is a work experience requirement that will kick in. So even without a degree in finance, you can still do your CFA. It's just in order to get level 3, you'll need to have that and actually get your certification. You can replace it with a work experience requirement.
Yep. Hopefully that answers the question. Okay. Okay, so I think that we answered. Does it require working experience? Yes, it does. So we have the number of hours on our website.
Yeah, for the sustainability reporting career, I think that definitely does help. I'm not sure what you mean by reporting exactly, if you mean more on like corporate reporting or kind of like communication, so dealing with like marketing or news reporting. But in terms of like the people I've worked with in Hong Kong, like Fleischman Hillard for the marketing side does require it. in terms of like all of their executives have taken the ESG certificate. Some of the media, like SCMP, et cetera, have taken the certificate so they can have more fluency in terms of the reporting. If you're talking more about like sustainability corporate reporting, we definitely do have people taking it on that side as well in order to just improve their understanding of the topics and how to present. Or, if they say they're doing, say, net zero or carbon neutrality approaches, like explaining the difference and where they are, how do you design a good transition report? All of that is very much covered in there.
Okay, let's go and jump on the next one.
It's a popularity contest, right?
Yeah.
I saw another question, which I'll help you answer
Yes,
if you don't
okay.
mind. Because I think there was a question about does any employer sponsor the program, right? So again, I will ask you to go next door. Okay, why? You saw the employers there. They are our employer partners. How do these firms become our employer partners? They are the ones who offer support in different ways to their staff. Either they offer them study leave, they sponsor the whole program. So it's different between different employers. So that's why you're in the right place today. Go and speak to the employers next door, right, to find out what kind of support they provide to their staff, right, in order to pursue this program.
Thanks, Jin. Just to add on, so I see a couple of questions about cost and financial aid as well. So just to build on that, the cost for the level for the CFA exam at each level varies from between 900 to 1,200, depending on whether you register for the early bird or not. So just about, let's say, just over 1,000 plus. What we do also offer in terms of financial aid is scholarships. So there are various scholarship options. One is the Access Scholarship. So that's the one that's open to anyone to apply within any market, and so that's available. You'll see again, we can provide more details to you offline. So that's Access Scholarship. If you're part of a university that is an affiliated university to CFA Institute, you would also have an allocation, a scholarship allocation that you can apply through your universities. So a few options for you to consider if you're thinking for or looking for additional financial aid.
And I saw there was a question too. You mentioned the UAP, so the University Alignment Program. So for universities that are part of the UAP, someone mentioned, like, is it good to start studying during my undergrad? For the universities in the UAP, we've gone through their curriculum to make sure that they're at least 70% aligned with the CFA. So if you're studying finance in your undergrad and you're studying the CFA, that will help you out with your coursework as well.
Increase in salary. Maybe the CFAs in the room can tell us. How does this increase your salary?
Yeah, that's always a tough one to say because it'll be market specific. But if you can go online right now and look for the Hong Kong market, SCMP had an article on people with ESG backgrounds. So for them, they were finding, I think it was a 25 to 30% salary premium in Hong Kong, just because of the demand in the network. There's a significant amount of jobs, but there's just no one with the backgrounds at the moment. So it's a tough challenge. Yep. So we are actually working on a climate certificate at the moment. I think it'll be announced in November and be out in February. I don't know how much I can talk about it right now, but it will go over things like carbon markets. It should have the scenario analysis, et cetera, in there. I know the ESG certificate mentions things like scenario analysis, but it doesn't go into like the quantitative detail about them. It's more about understanding things about what do the different scenarios mean, what kind of bias exists in the creation of the scenarios, but the climate cert will be more on the quantitative side.
Yeah, this question about do we see a lot more Malaysian employers starting to recognize the certificate? I think overwhelmingly yes, very much so. In fact, David and I, we're here for almost 5 days actually. We're going to be visiting a lot of the employers, and one of the hot topics, in fact, almost every one of them wants to discuss the ESG certificate. So certainly I would say yes. I mean, even in terms of where we see registrations, I think Malaysia is one of the stronger markets in terms of the number of uptake as well. Jin Yoong, do you want to add on observations from the board or the society?
Just to add on to that, the biggest fund managers in Malaysia, who are they? The EPFs, the Corp of the world, they are the ones that are spearheading this. So they are actually making it a requirement that their investments have to be sustainable, has to be sustainable, right? ESG compliant.
Yeah, thank you. I saw a question about whether if you've already passed level 1 and 2, if you're eligible for the practical skills. Absolutely in time to come, yes. The plan is, in fact, not just for those who have passed level 1s, even the charter holders already themselves are interested to get access to the practical skills module. So that is the plan, that we will make this available to everyone in time to come. So yes, the short answer, yes.
I think it does actually, yeah. So one of the trickiest parts about doing anything in like a consulting role is like policy transition. So understanding public policy, the challenges, or implementing solutions. Like if you want to do anything on the sustainability side, what is the public kind of response going to be, and how do you deal with the public, is very necessary. So that, I think Reseena also mentioned that, and the president also mentioned that, soft skills, right? So a lot of public policy gets into those soft skill aspects and understanding how people are going to react or deal with certain topics.
Is it recommended for those in their first year of university? So again, because the minimum requirement now is that you have to be 23 months from graduation to be able to register. So hopefully that clears up. If you're in your first year, I would say wait until you hit that 23-month mark before graduation.
I saw a question on banking. I think in Hong Kong, one of our largest employers is a bank.
Sorry?
CFA, relevance to banking.
Yes.
So I believe, like in Hong Kong, one of our largest employers is the local banks.
Yeah, HSBC,
so there is quite a lot of uptake. Personally, I haven't done much work in banks, so I can't specifically talk to that. But I know in terms of just numbers, there's quite a lot of CFA charter holders in the major banks in Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Better to start up. Okay. Do you want to take that question about the asset management? How useful if you're not working in asset management specifically?
I used to work in a bank, and again, I keep on saying next door, right? So I'm asking you to go. There are a lot of banks who are our employer partners. Some of them are here, right? And there are a lot of charter holders who works in all the banking groups in Malaysia, right? So yes, definitely it is relevant if you intend to join the banking industry, right?
I think I've answered this one. So you will at some point eventually get access to the modules. Okay, in terms of your working experience, so if some of you, if you're not sure whether your experience qualifies, we do actually have online a means for you to gauge your experience. So you can provide the information through our online portal and be able to get some preliminary assessment, but also just feel free to drop a note directly to CFA Institute, and then we can weigh in further looking at your specific experience as well. So yeah, so you can contact us and we can help you to assess your qualifications. Anything else? Yeah.
I know there's a lot of questions that we probably didn't get to, so I think we're going to be here till 4 or 5 o'clock at the table outside. So any questions that you want to really know, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, we'll be here all day, so just feel free to approach us, whether we're milling around or at the booth as well.
Yep.
All right, okay, so thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening.